Overcoming Barriers to Teaching Critical Thinking by Fani, Sama Technical and Vocational Training College, Islamic Azad University, Tehran Branch, Iran. Critical thinking has a long history. Although since antiquity it underpins many philosophical investigations, an articulated conceptualization of critical thinking emerges only at the end of the 19th century, when Charles Saunders Pierce developed his early theory of pragmatism and late theory of pragmaticism. In his efforts to describe the scientific method, he identified logic as a central component of critical thinking. Although most educators probably agree that critical thinking is an important cognitive skill that schools aim to develop in students, there appears to be a lack of agreement regarding a clear and operational definition of critical thinking. Based on a review of 25 prior definitions, a summary definition of critical thinking abilities has been provided. A process of evaluating evidence for certain claims, determining whether presented conclusions logically follow from the evidence, and considering alternative explanations. Critical thinkers exhibit open-mindedness, tolerance of ambiguity, and a skeptical questioning attitude. Several popular definitions of critical thinking contain the following 5 common elements: identifying central issues and assumptions, making correct inferences from data, deducing conclusions from data provided, interpreting whether conclusions are warranted, and evaluating evidence or authority. While this touches only briefly on the concept of critical thinking, it seems that many of these elements could be linked to higher order levels of thinking, which attempts to explain how or why, as compared to lower order knowledge levels, which focus simply on what. The difficulties involved in teaching critical thinking are multifold. One of the obstacles is lacking proper assessment that effectively and objectively measures a student's strengths and weaknesses in critical thinking. Number 2, there are competing definitions of critical thinking. However, there is no consensus among scholars about what critical thinking means. Is it measurable? If yes, how and to what extent? Number 3, there does not exist an organized approach for teaching critical thinking. There is no magical formula for developing critical thinking. Number 4, it has been argued that critical thinking threatens the calm of assumed amiability that governs much of our interactions with one another. Very rare is the individual who is eager to have his or her reasoning placed under the bright light of critical thinking. And the last one, unless teachers are familiar with different components of critical thinking and approaches to teach it, they will not be able to equip students with this precious ability. There is a lack of training on the part of the teachers as well. Both the multiple choice and open-ended tests of critical thinking have their respective limitations. The current trend is to combine the 2 response formats into one test. Critical thinking test, utilizing a single multiple choice response format, measures only recognition or level of knowledge and do not adequately capture the dispositional characteristics of test takers. Multiple choice response format does not reveal test takers' underlying reasoning for choosing a particular answer, nor does it reflect test takers' ability to think critically under unprompted situations, whereas measurement that allows for responses in both multiple choice and open-ended format makes it possible to assess individuals' spontaneous application of thinking skills on top of their ability to recognize a correct response. Assessment consists of multiple response formats should be pursued for effective evaluation of a student's critical thinking performance. It is suggested that specific courses be designed for teachers to equip them with different techniques, books, and materials on teaching critical thinking. Langer, 1997, is one of the researchers who is concerned with teachers presenting content mindfully. Teachers should learn to teach from multiple perspectives and focus on linkages and similarities of content. One way to focus on critical thinking is the infusion approach, in which critical thinking is incorporated into the existing subject matter in different ways. One disadvantage of the infusion method is that the teaching of critical thinking may lack any sensible sequence or coherence. A little fallacy recognition is taught here, a little concept analysis there. The infusion approach requires all teachers to be well versed in and disposed toward critical thinking. Practice makes perfect. Consistency is of significant importance in the development of critical thinking. It is recommended that teachers persist on asking students to think critically and to use different levels of critical thinking. Students, when they get expertise in thinking critically, will continue practicing it. A recent approach to the teaching of critical thinking involves using critical challenges. The concept rejects the skill, the problem solving, and the mental process views of critical thinking. Instead, the focus is on helping students acquire the tools needed to resolve problematic situations about what to believe or what to do. Critical thinking practice can have magical effects on the students as well as teachers. When teachers and students are aligned in pursuit of improved critical thinking, cognitive magic is possible. Reasoning improves without the encumbrance of the automatic animosity that can ruin the atmosphere for prospective critical thinking. Each attribute of a critical thinking classroom plays a facilitative role in the fragile potential for a broad community of critical thinkers. However, their function is linked to the willingness of both teacher and student to engage in the hard work necessary to realize that existing aspiration. 6 levels of critical thinking has been proposed. Level 1, descriptions. Level 2, simplistic alternatives. Level 3, basic analysis. Level 4, theoretical inference. Level 5, empirical inference. And Level 6, merging values with analysis. Teachers need to be aware that the students cannot begin to think critically from the higher levels. However, they are in need to be guided through levels of critical thinking. Teaching critical thinking is not an easy task. There are various problems in achieving this goal. Among the barriers are ambiguous definitions of CT, lack of organized sequence in teaching critical thinking, threatening nature of critical thinking practice, lack of proper assessment, and lack of teacher training. However, there are solutions to these problems. Some of them are providing teachers with specific training courses, infusion approach, continued practice, using critical challenges, considering different levels of critical thinking, and encouraging a positive attitude towards CT. Critical thinking, if implemented in every occasion, would influence the life of people greatly.